All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me after a holiday weekend. I never know how attendance is going to be when sometimes it's easy just to take the rest of the week off, right? But here we are jumping in. I feel like things are going to start picking up now that we're through the everybody back in school, through holidays, all of that. So we are going to dive into video this week or today and the rest of the month. So I'm breaking this class up into 3 sections so that we have time to kind of dig into it. And today we're going to talk about your brand and how do we develop a brand and why is that important? And so then next week, we're going to talk about scripts and dialogues and practices. And then the following week will be the actual implementation of like, what are the tools that we need? What's the cadence I should be doing this? And, you know, kind of all of those best tips and tricks for you guys. I know video is definitely, some people are natural with it and they feel comfortable with it. Some people have to just get over it, right? And do it anyway, even though they are terrified by it. And then there's some people who will never do it. And, you know, as much as I advocate for video, I understand everyone's different places where they're at, right, in life. And sometimes, you know, you have to find your own voice. And we're going to talk about that today. So about the branding, right? And so not that I'm going to say, give yourself a pass on video, but if it's not your voice and it's not something that really truly resonates with you after you take these 3 classes, then, you know, let's talk about different ways that you can still have a brand, still have a voice and still be present, but using what's authentic for you. Okay. Because again, some people are super, you know, comfortable with it and they're naturals with it. Other people struggle and develop the skill. But today, what I want to do is just let's talk about your brand, right? Let's dig into that. All right, so let me do PowerPoint here. Don, are you still up in Prescott? No, you're back home.
No, I'm back in Phoenix.
Yeah, that drive, yeah, I hope you didn't have really bad traffic coming home, so.
Oh, no, I made sure I came late last night.
Yeah, there you go.
I got this thing figured out.
Yeah, or you could always take the back way, right?
That's true.
The back way is not, it's a little bit longer, but it's still pretty drive. So,
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump in, the power of video. So let me, slides going. Oh, I'm gonna probably see if that works. Okay. All right. So course overview today. So our purpose is we want to teach you guys the basic skills and help you develop your confidence. So how do I implement video into my business? And then next week, we're going to talk about the dollar productive activity. So, you know, how do I use video to, you know, maybe outline with a buyer, right? After buyer gets into contract, what happens next? Kind of automate some of those communications that a lot of times we push out via email. Sometimes we don't do anything with that, right? We don't even have a plan. So we're going to dive into what are the dollar productive activities, how you can use video around that. The expectations, we want you to build your confidence, right? So that you can go out and incorporate video into your activities. And then the strategy. So today we're going to talk about the human connection and how do I be relatable and be able to connect with people authentically online. And of course, other classes we have coming up, we're going to start after this, we're going to get into the buyer consultation and the listing consultation. Those classes will be coming up as well. So our plan today, so we want to be intentional. And, you know, I use that word intentional a lot. And so you guys have heard me say that proactive just means to produce action. So we want to define our aspirations. We want to develop our GPS, which is your goals, plans, and strategies. We want to implement those, right? And how do we take the vital activities and create video around that? And then being accountable. Just a quick plug for the GAS program. If you guys haven't signed up, that's the mastermind program that Nate's putting together. Make sure you sign up and let him know if you're going to participate in that. I think it's going to be pretty amazing. And I think it's very timely, rolling into the beginning of the 4th quarter and then going into the beginning of the next year. So, okay, going back, just a little plug for that. So your personal brand. So identifying who's, so I want to come off the share screen here in a second, but talking about your personal brand. So developing that. Do I have one? Does one exist for me, right? And if not, what does that look like? So we want to identify who's our audience, determine if there's a content gap, and there is, right? There's always gaps out there, and then determine the value. And then being a storyteller. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on being a good storyteller as well. And then moving down to dollar productive activities. Next week, we're going to talk about those 47 listing and buyer activities, and then having our marketing and our client care. So how do I implement video into all of those areas? And then lastly, over here is our video system. I'm just going to move you. didn't mean to do that. Hold on. So having your personal scripts, right? Tips and resources, how to create value-driven content, and then establishing your schedule. So, and as every momentum class, we talk about tracking, evaluating, and improving. The definition of insanity, right, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So it's not working. We need to change our method. So the summary, so the power of video teaches you how to build a complete video system through your brand. So today we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to identify what is your brand, how do I deliver that value content to the right audience, and then how am I being a good storyteller? Some people are naturals, right? I think of Matthew McConaughey, and if you guys haven't listened to his book Green Lights, it's really good, and he narrates it, and so he's a great storyteller. And so when I think of like really good storytellers, what are the things that they do? And so I would challenge all of you guys to go find somebody. If one pops in your head, right, look at what they do. How do they tell the story? How do they get your attention? How do they hook you in, right? And when you have video on Facebook, you have a very short window of time to hook people, right? When you think about your own behavior on video on Facebook, how long do you stay on a video, and how fast do you engage, and how fast are you off the video? So that's important to think about that. It's a real small window. And then, so we want to have, how do we build our confidence, right? And then the end result is we want to be able to leverage video, not only with your vital activities and kind of automating some of those things, but also how do I build video so that I can communicate with people online and generate business online. There's some people out there that are just killing it with YouTube. They're doing a lot with YouTube. And, I think about my nephews, and, while they have Facebook pages, they're not active on Facebook. My one nephew just turned 21, and the bulk of his time is spent on YouTube. And so when we think about this next generation of people coming into the buying pool, where are they at? They're not on Facebook, right? They're on TikTok and YouTube. So why do we want to have videos? So video is an extremely powerful tool to incorporate in your business for a number of reasons. So it creates a human connection with you, right? Puts your personality to the content that you're pushing out. And each of you guys have a unique personality, and each of you bring something unique to the table. And that's sort of like your lighthouse, right? And you're putting out this light that says, hey, where are my people? And so when we use video, that amplifies that light to say, hey, Jan, I can connect with you. I can be relatable with you. Okay. So relatability with your audience, credibility, right? Makes you an expert on the subject matter. And, we want to have fun with this, you guys. You don't want to just be boring, people that just deliver, facts and data, right? Facts and data are important, but we need to have some fun with that too. And having fun just in general, because there are some non-glamorous things about this business, right? And so there's also some really cool things about this business. So highlighting all of that stuff. Firsthand display of your character, right? Who are you? Your expertise, your knowledge, and then delivering the experience that stands out above the crowd. And then the bottom line is we want to strengthen relationships and build new ones with people. So the average video content, it's important that the average is outperforming the non-video counterpart, right? And if you're one of those people like me who says, well, when I lose 20 pounds, or when I get my hair done, or I don't like the way I sound, all those things, at the end of the day, you guys, they don't care about any of that stuff. They're showing up to hear your message. They're showing up to connect with you. Years ago, two of my dear friends, we were having a sleepover, an adult slumber party. And my one friend who was hosting was stressed out about her house. She was like, my house isn't clean enough for company. And if you knew this person, her house, like, she thinks a Friday night is fun to take the bed apart and vacuum underneath it, right? When most of us maybe do that when we move, right? And so her house, my point in that, her house is extremely clean. And I said to her, I was like, we're not coming over to inspect your baseboards. And, we kind of made a joke about it, right? So it was able to alleviate some of that stress for her. And I think of this the same way here with video, is that they're not coming over to inspect your baseboards, right? They're there to connect with you. Are you going to have trolls and people that can be rude? Absolutely, right? But you can turn the comments off. And we can also have some fun with that too. So you can't allow that fear of what people might think of you to override the value that you're bringing to the table, right? Because they don't care about, the 20 pounds that you think you need to lose. So why video? So homeowners say that they're more likely to list with a real estate agent who uses video. Marketing professionals worldwide name video as the best content for your return on investment. It increases our organic traffic through search engines. An initial email with the video receives more click-through rate. And then marketers who use video grow revenue faster than non-video users. And so it says here, few realtors are using marketing video in their marketing. I don't think that's true. I think there's realtors out there that are, plenty of them are. I think there's room for more. And you guys, you have a couple tools with Remax. You've got that Remax Hustle that you can go in and create real quick video content, or you can, there's ones that you can go in and actually like edit it and get in the weeds of doing some video. So it doesn't always have to be you on video. You can use some of those other tools out there. So why aren't we leveraging video? Okay, so many, it's because it's outside our comfort zone, right? We feel awkward. And I think Zoom's been an amazing tool for us, because during COVID, you know, all of us, that was the only way we had to connect, right? Was on Zoom. And so I think that kind of pushed a lot of us out of our comfort zones, and a lot of people got on Zoom that may not have, right? If they didn't, if what happened didn't happen. And so use that, right? If you're comfortable showing up right now and being on video, why wouldn't you be comfortable showing up and doing a video that you push out to your clients or out to social media? So you want to step outside our comfort zone. So we have lack of motivation, which boils down to no vision. I don't know what to say. I turn the camera on, but I don't have a clue what I'm doing, and I don't know what to say. So creating a vision, like knowing what the outcome is that we want. Having a plan, right? Lack of direction. So having a plan that says, okay, today, this is the video content I'm going to do. And I had taken a class on behalf of the company a couple years ago with a marketing company we work with named Viral. And one of the things the guy said, he goes, and this is going to sound really, really silly. He said, but the easiest way to get video done is to put it in your calendar. And just have it scheduled in your calendar, Donna, and just say, okay, Wednesdays at 9 a.m., I'm doing video content, right? And I know that sounds really simple, but we live by our calendars. So if something's not in my calendar, it's probably not on a list somewhere, it's probably not going to get done, right? And then so skill set, right? So that's what we want to do, is want to teach you how to do it. And then lack of focus means lack of discipline. And then lack of support. So we don't have any community or mentorship. And you guys, so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is maybe create a little select group of people on Facebook that you trust to give you honest feedback. And then when you're doing videos, you can just push it out to them, or even send a text to someone that is close to you and say, hey, Heather, how does this video sound? Right. And I've had agents do that with me, and, you know, just to get comfortable with it and build their confidence there. And the same thing with Facebook Live. You can actually do a select group with Facebook Live, so only those people see it, and then you can go back and delete it. If you're not comfortable doing Facebook Live, which I get, that's terrifying because it's live, right? No do-overs. Then spend the time just to record something and then push it out, right? Till you can get more comfortable doing that. I know Donna's done some Facebook Lives, and I think Jessica has with Bros. So a few people have done them. And so, you know, no one dies from them, even though they are a little bit uncomfortable. So building your personal brand. So the must-haves of creating a personal brand, it's got to be authentic, right? It has to be you, Jana. It has to be, who are you, right? What do you bring to the table? How are people going to connect with me? And because you have the school teacher background, that lends a lot in real estate, right? Because what do? A lot of what we do is just teaching people the process and guiding them through that. And so I think leaning in on that part of your past life, but what are the skill sets that help you today? Must be a reflection of what you do. So the services you provide, so your expertise and your knowledge. Some of you, maybe you want to specialize in first-time home buyers. Maybe you want to specialize in golf properties, or, vacation rentals, or whatever, right? Fill in the blanks of what that niche might be for yourself. And then, so your knowledge, your service that you provide, they must amplify what you believe. So we have, and you guys have heard me say this before, is no matter what's happening, I think we should all be positive champions for home ownership. Right. We've seen a lot of negativity out there around that. And, oh my gosh, sky's going to fall. The market's going to, this is a bubble. There's no evidence of that. Right. We're still 3.2 million homes short of what we need just to keep up with the human consumption. So it must be a thoughtful display of your ideals. So your personality, your values, and your beliefs. And so your personality, who are you? Right? Who are you? What do you bring to the table? Why would I want to connect with you? And then what's your values and your beliefs? And so knowing what those beliefs are around home ownership, right? And around just real estate in general. So, and beyond that, home ownership, we used to always just highlight home ownership as the tax benefit, right? Well, that's kind of changed over the years, and then the equity growth, and that's all positive. That's great. I remember my ex-in-laws, they sold their house that they had owned in Maryville for like 15 years, and they made 10 grand on it, and they were over the moon, right? That was a big deal because that was a lot of money at the time. And so now people are like, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars off their homes, right, when they sell them. And so we highlight so much of that, but homeownership, you guys, goes beyond those two factors. There's studies done by NAR that says that, children do better in school. They have more confidence, marriages last longer. People just have an overall, a sense of pride of place and well-being from being a homeowner instead of renting, right? And so there's a lot of other things that go along with that I think that we tend to overlook because we get so hyper focused on just the money piece of it. And now with the market kind of starting to shift, I'm seeing agents struggle with that because we haven't had those conversations over the last 3 years, right? It's all just been about move fast, right? Moving fast, and just how much equity or what's the highest price they're going to get, and the crazy offers that they were getting. And so I think we have to, we tend to do that, right? We tend to swing the pendulum one way to the other. And I think that we've, stopped focusing on buyers because we've been so focused on getting listings. And so I think we have to go back to some of those basics of what's the real value of being a homeowner, because the interest rate is the interest rate, the payment's the payment, right? The price is the price, but what's the value of being a homeowner? And I think, again, got to go back to those basics there. So talking about your personality and building your brand. So I love this slide because if you were to say what would be one word to describe yourself and then one word that someone else would use to describe you. Okay. So you have your values, your vision, your passion. And then what do you do and say? How do you see yourself? What's your knowledge and expertise? And then we have our opinions and reputation, the perceived value, and then how people feel when they interact with you. So then this is how others see you. And then those kind of collide, right? They meet in the middle, and this is your personal brand. So if you guys were to say one word about yourselves, what would that be? Everyone's shy now. I don't know. What would it be? So Jan, how about patience? You muted yourself. Patience could be one, right?
Yes.
Did you ever?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just said committed.
Committed. Okay. Determined, committed. I love that. Donna, you've been doing this a minute. And what do you think? What's one word that describes you?
Aggressive.
I was going to say tenacious.
Okay, that's a better word.
Tenacious, right? So a go-getter, right? She's a bulldog. So yeah. Roberta, what about you? I don't know if you're in a place to come off mute.
Hang on.
I'll go to Heather while we're waiting on Roberta.
I'd say dedicated.
Okay, dedicated. All right. Awesome. Those are all good words. So then while we're waiting for Roberta, what would be something, and you don't have to necessarily answer this today, but go to someone that you trust, right? And ask them for a word that describes you, and see what they say. So I always like when, years ago, I used to help agents write their bios. And I would always ask them if they had reviews, like give me some reviews that agents or that your clients have said about you. And it was always interesting because I would use that as my base because there were always certain words that stood out in every single review. And those were the words I was like, okay, this is who this person is, right? So pay attention to that too. When people review you, what are the things that they're saying? Because that's their interaction with you. I think it was Maya Angelou said something to the effect of, it's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you make them feel, right? And that's what they remember. Roberta, you got a word?
No.
No? So,
but I always like to think that it's either, knowledgeable or expertise, words like that. And those are the words that I find in my reviews also. I think right now my word is, for me personally, is more along the lines of either enthusiastic or positive.
Okay. I like that too. Yeah. And it's easy to get stuck in those words like expert and, those things like that, but go deeper, go deeper with it and really, because being an expert, I think that's sort of, in my opinion, that's kind of given. Yeah. Right. So in my opinion, so same thing with honesty and loyalty, right? Those are all parts of our fiduciary duties. And so go deeper with it and don't be afraid to be unique and step outside the box of something that maybe isn't what everyone else is doing, right? That's okay, because that's what, again, makes you unique and makes you stand out. There's 90,000 agents running around out there. Everyone knows someone who's an agent. So what's the difference? Why should they choose you? Some of you guys heard my story about the house I bought. that it was a for sale by owner. And the lady shared with me, the homeowner shared with me that they knew 5 people, 2 of which were her husband's best friend and her best friend, that were all licensed. And they opted to go for sale by owner because they didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you're making 200 grand on this house. You don't know what you're doing. You didn't do a home inspection when you bought it. And you're risking all of this because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Let me think about that for a second. 5 people, 5. Not one of those, Sandra, stood out in their minds to be a hell yes choice. How sad is that?
Very sad.
Very sad, right? And scary that they risked 200 grand and going out. I mean, this house needed lead-based paint, all these things that it needed, right? So, so yeah, I mean, just think about that. Think about the people you interact with, and are you a hell yes for them if they know other people who are licensed? All right. Okay, so next slide. So your personal brand. So the importance of the important element to your personal brand is the story you're telling. So the golden rule of video is to be a storyteller. So your story is the purpose of your brand, is a narrative setting. The most important element is to become a storyteller, is to create an emotional connection with your viewers. So the mind justifies what the heart decides. So we want to lead with emotion. And so I did some research a little bit just to give you guys some more tips on good storytelling. And so we have a problem, right? We have the beginning. So we have a need, a fear, an uncertainty, right? So if you look at open door offer pad commercials, what do? They immediately start with the fear of, 1, it's going to take forever to sell your house, and 2, people are going to be going through your underwear drawer. All right, that's the message that they're conveying immediately upon the beginning of those commercials. So we tee it up with the fear, the problem, okay, and then they go into the solution, right? They offer the solution. So, but we got to have a beginning, right? We identify what the problem, the fear, the need is. Then we have the middle, right? We have the conflict, and so we have to have someone in our story to root for, right? Whether that's the outcome of selling the house, right, or a person. And it's important that you don't be the hero of your own story. Right, that's an important piece of this. And then we have the end, right, which is the solution. So we solve the conflict, we solve the fear or the uncertainty or the problem. Okay, so do some research on that. And again, I would encourage you to research or think about people in your own life or people that you follow and that are famous, that are great storytellers, and kind of mirror what they do and learn from them. Okay, so we want to move this out of the way. So we want to stand out. So identify why you're unique. Okay, what makes you different than the other agents? And then we're the expert, right? So we established that what we want to be known for, what's your focus, your area of expertise. We talk a lot about that with Shannon, about staying in our areas of expertise. And so, again, could be first-time home buyers, could be, probate, could be, divorce, specializing in divorces. So those are all, different niches that are out there. So we have our onlookers, right? So we want to identify your ideal target audience. And then who do you want to hear your story, right? So this is, again, your audience, defining that. And then what's the relevance? What is the content that is valuable and relevant for our clients right now? And I think, again, we need to be talking about the inventory. I don't know if you guys saw my post I did last week, but there were 19,707 homes in the market. And so I got a little bit of interaction from it, not as much as I had hoped, but 19,000 homes, right? And so those are all opportunities that are out there. And so thinking about what's relevant. And again, we need to really be focusing on the benefits, right? And all the stuff that's happening out there in the market. And then we have a yearning, right? So we identify what type of content your audience is currently missing, what's missing out there. And then what no one else is doing it, right? The way that you can. And so what do we think about what's missing? I see what's out there, but what's missing, right? And I feel like some of it is touting the fact that, buyers, right? This is a great time to be a homeowner. And in the last 3 years, things have changed. Right. And all these things that are coming up, I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and they had negotiated a contract where seller didn't want to pay buyer's closing costs, but the buyer needed it because they needed the closing cost concession. So they raised the price to offset the buyer's concessions. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to do that all the time. But we got away from it, right? And it's just one of those ideas that gets dusty and in the back of our mind, and then it needs to be refreshed, right? So thinking about things that we used to do, are they relevant today, right? And are they missing in the marketplace? So delivering the value with your story. So how will I be valuable to my audience? So be powerful, right? We want to have a powerful impact that changes the behavior or the action. And then we want to increase the education on the desired topic. And so right now, what's the buzz? I can't afford a home. Interest rates, right? And I think there's still some people out there that think that there's no inventory on the market, right? Because they're not, the news isn't talking about that, right? The news is only highlighting the fact that the interest rates went up and, oh gosh, the feds might raise it again. The reality is that when the feds raise rates, it's not always homeowner rates. Oftentimes it's rates on credit cards and auto loans and other things, right, that have interest rates attached to them and not necessarily real estate. Okay. So being aware of that, right? So having an impact that changes people's behavior. How do I educate them? Right? How do I educate them about what's happening out there? And then so we want to identify the audience, identify the content gap, and then how will you be valuable? How will you show up to deliver that message to them? So when considering what content is the most valuable for your audience, you want to establish your position as the resource hub, okay? So is it relevant? Something that they need? It's meaningful and appropriate, irresistible, something that the audience wants and is enticing and appealing? Is it irreplaceable? Something the audience can't get anywhere else, can only be found with you. Somebody, and I think it might have been Donna that mentioned this last week, but there's some people out there that are underinsured on homeowner insurance. Right? They bought their house, the policy covered them when they bought the house, but now if their house were to burn down or have some damage, the cost of replacement is different today. And so is that a great content to have, right? Because no one's talking about that. Donna, you want to share a little bit more?
Well, I had one of my loan officers reach out to me and say, hey, I just want to give you this tip.
Mhm.
And it actually happened to me because our house is worth far more than when we purchased it for. Even with some places taking dips, we were like 300,000 underinsured. And
Wow,
and
that's significant.
yeah, and but that it takes me back to when you said earlier something about me or whatever. I was taking out a buyer, and it's all about giving people true information and being the words he said is you came across as being very genuine. And I'm not trying to be the salesperson, but I'm trying to educate people. So telling people things that you've gone through either yourself or like these were new first time buyers, or not even first time, second time, but they didn't know, how to go about selling their house because now they got a bunch of equity. But it's just about informing and being genuine to people and giving them the information.
Yeah. And sometimes we talk people out of moving, right? I mean, sometimes
Well,
it's
I
not
haven't
the right
done that
time.
yet.
I have sometimes I've talked people out of either buying, like it's just not the right time for you. And I've also talked people out of selling, just that and not necessarily talked them out, but consulted with them and reviewed all the options. And together the decision was, you know what, it's not the right time. And
Right.
so that's being, I love that word genuine, because I think that definitely sums up you. Because you do come across that way and you genuinely want to get in and do a good job for people that you represent. So,
Right.
so good tip on that, you guys. Maybe check your own policies if you've been in your house a minute, because that's a great thing that, again, no one's talking about it, right? So relevant, irresistible, and irreplaceable information. All right, so that is oh gosh, we got through that really quickly. Let's do a stop share. So let's just have some conversation here. So what are some ideas? What are some ahas that y'all had from this? And what are you thinking about your brand?
I think what you said about, capitalizing on the teacher piece of it, like when we did our we do RM marketing to a couple farming areas, and we did actually, I should grab it and read it, but it basically says that, Jan has been an educator in this community for over this many years, combined with Vern's expertise and they capitalized on that in the marketing. So I think that is something that we've tried to use.
Yeah, and I think Vern has a contact for everything, so that's another huge plus that he has, because it doesn't matter what you need, Vern's got a guy. So,
Yes. Will he share the guy is the question. He's careful about who he shares them with, but
yeah,
he does have guys, that's for sure.
he saved me so much money moving my hot tub. I was about to pay a guy $1,800 to move my hot tub. I mean, check was written out and everything, and they showed up and we had an issue, so they couldn't do the job. Well, then I was telling Vern about it. He's like, I got a guy. I paid the guy $600.
Yeah.
So that's a significant difference. And the guy said, I feel bad charging you this. It's usually only 300, but because I have to drive an hour to take it up there, I have to charge you a little bit more. I was like, please, I'm happy with that. So Vern's got a guy. So yeah, I would definitely, and that's important, Jan, right? Because people don't know. And when they sit down and they look at their homes and we come in and say, hey, you got to do some, updates to sell this, which is the reality now, right? Homes are not going to fly off the market that have issues. So, talking about those the pre-inspections and stuff. And so that's an important thing that Vern can say, hey, I got a guy, right? I got somebody who's going to take care of you.
And that did just happen, like during the storms, we had our client, thank goodness, his house was on the market for 95 days and we finally have it under contract. But
that you're mid-century?
Yes, finally.
Hey, good.
The trellis blew over and then the neighbor was mad and it knocked down some blocks. It was just kind of like a big fiasco, but because he had someone, we were able to get that, repaired quickly. And of course, our clients really appreciated that because they are now in North Carolina. They're not even here. I've kind of been taking care of their home. Lesson for me to learn, never to do that. I've been watering plants, getting mail. I'm over it. I'm so over it. But anyway, yeah, so that came in real handy to have those people and they appreciated it a lot.
Absolutely. So I had one of my first real estate transactions. It was a contingency. So they were buying another property and we had like a 1 week gap between closing on the two houses. And they had two really aggressive dogs and they couldn't take them they were staying with their in-laws and they couldn't take them to the in-laws house. And they were Akitas and they were the type of dogs that were very protective. So I offered to house them in my backyard and we literally had to put up like black stuff on the windows so the dogs wouldn't jump through the windows. So my ex-husband was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, lesson learned, right? Don't take in dogs. So
that was my first listing. So I was like, sure, I'll do anything you want. You bet.
Yeah, we all have stories like that. Roberta, you came off mute. You got something you want to add? Maybe she didn't mean to come off mute.
Oh, I had come off mute earlier. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I didn't, not on this part of the conversation. It was back on commentary, what the latest lingo is and comments out in the market and on the seller side, because I think you were talking mostly interest side for buyers and how to communicate to buyers. But I wanted to just comment that on the listing side, it's getting away from the language and educating our sellers, getting away from the language of, oh, you missed the market.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't miss the market. The market's still here. And but we have to adjust that discussion point and educate them in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And reality is we're still 3.2 million homes short. And depending on what sector of the market they're in, there's still a shortage of first-time home buyer product out there, right? So there's still a shortage in that. Yeah, I agree, Roberta. I'm hearing that too from people, and that's such a negative, you missed the market, fear-based attitude. So Sandra, were you going to add something?
My thought was it doesn't have to be complicated. Like I did a pop by. I live in a kind of 45 house community, and I do a lot of farming in it. And for St. Patrick's Day, now I didn't come up with this, so I'm not going to claim it. But the guy that was helping me, he said he put on the bag, he put a shamrock on it for St. Patrick's Day, and then said, "Why am I your neighborhood specialist? Because I've had the pleasure of raising my family in this wonderful community for the past 7 years." And I thought that's, there's other stuff on the front about home prices and stuff, but I just thought that's, people can relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
They know that I know what it's like to live here, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Nate does that too, because he's one of the original members of Blackstone and lives in there. And I think that's important because people feel like you understand, what it's like to live there, and you have a relatability to that. So that's great.
Yeah, we had total drama. I don't think it hit the news, but my son was asleep on the couch and he woke up and all these red lights were everywhere. So I went outside and I am not exaggerating, there were 13 fire trucks here from Glendale to Phoenix, everywhere. And apparently this 11-year-old little boy had somehow, we live, there's a mountain that's very dangerous with lots of rocks beside us. And he had somehow made his way up this thing. And fortunately, one of the neighbors I know really well, his 85-year-old mother heard the kid screaming, and he had fallen and subsequently broken his ankle. But my neighbor Mark, we live on a wash, so he went out the gate, went around, brought an umbrella with him just to shield the child, and brought a cold water, and then left the gate on, open, so that when they arrived, they could. But this kid had just gone off without his parents or anything, and so then the police showed up because somebody had reported a missing child. God, there were like 15 cars
in your little neighborhood.
Well, our tiny little neighborhood. Well, no, it's not tiny, but anyway, I walked out and there must have been 30 fire guys standing outside my door, and so I just saw Mark. So I just walked towards Mark, and I could see Mark was like bright red, and I thought he had a gun in his hand. We're so gun conscious, because it was black, but it turned out to be the umbrella that he brought to. But then the guys followed him up the hill, and they carried down the child because the child had broken his ankle.
Oh, yeah.
We had drama yesterday.
No kidding. All right. Well, so I would challenge each of you to go out today and think about your brand. Think about, what is it that people say about you, right? Take a challenge and put it on social media to say, hey guys, what's one word that you would use to describe me, if you're brave enough to do that. So most people are very positive, so you'll have a good experience with that. So just, think about that. What do I want to be known for? Heather, you're new in the business, and Jessica, you're fairly new as well. So what's the niche? Is there something special or a specific direction I want to work, right? And Heather lives in the East Valley. So if y'all have any leads in the East Valley that you don't want to go to Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek, she's your lady. So connect with her on that, because that's a long drive. I sold one in Gilbert before I moved, and it was an hour and a half one way to get there. So like 90 miles. So it's a hike to get out there. So next week, we're going to dive into scripts, dialogues, and talking about the activities of how can we use video around the activities that happen in our transactions to support that and kind of automate some of those things. So any questions, comments, anything before we wrap up for today?
Very useful.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So next week we'll keep going. What do we have Thursday? Thursday, we've got a company coming in called Real Grader they do a lot of social media and online type stuff. So it's a product. So, they're going to talk to you guys about what they offer. Nate's using them. So that was part of why we have them on the calendar. So, but yeah, that's on Thursday's class. So it's just a tool that's out there for you guys. So if you have any questions or anything that you need, please reach out, and hopefully you'll come next Tuesday to get the second part of this class.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.